Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight to go over performance nutrition for basketball athletes. My name is Danielle Lafata, and I have been a sports performance dietitian for over 15 years. I am currently the director of performance nutrition for the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, our WNBA or Women's National Basketball Association team. I've also spent some time with the San Francisco Giants and worked with them through 2 of their World Series, as well as spent 3 years with the U.S. men's national soccer team. I've also worked with some military, some football, and hockey teams. And I'm real excited to be here tonight to go over and hopefully give you some great ideas and tips for basketball nutrition. So what we're going to be covering today, we're going to be looking at daily nutritional requirements for the basketball player, understanding the importance and what you can do for hydration, so pre, during, and post-training or games, making sure we're fueling or eating before, during, and after, and how to get specific with that for you. We'll go over a couple case studies and some frequently asked questions. During the case studies, though, be ready. I'm going to ask you to make sure to, not make sure, but I'm going to ask you to participate for me and answer some of these questions. Before I go on, I just want to make sure that you guys, if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat or in the Q&A section, and I will answer them throughout our presentation. All right, so let's start with our daily nutritional requirements. So the first thing we want to think about is carbohydrates. So over here is a great picture. When we think carbohydrates, remember, we want to think all of our fruits, rice, pasta, beans, oatmeal, bread. Those are going to be our main carbohydrates. And contrary to what's being said, they are our main source of fuel for high intensity exercise like basketball. So they store in our muscle. It's called glycogen, this word right here. And that's what powers your wheels. That's what makes you go. That's what also helps you recover, along with your protein, which we'll get into in a second. So here are some rules of thumb. You need to pull out your calculator and do a little bit do some math. But if we're not training and it's an off day, maybe about 5 grams per kilogram of body weight. Remember, you take your body weight, divide it by 2.2. That's how your kilograms multiplied by 5. Now, if we're playing and we're max minutes and we are training every day, we want that 7 to 12 grams per kilogram. And then we want to divide that up over 4 to 6 meals a day. So I got ahead of myself, but again, our sources of carbohydrates are, another word for them are starches or grains. So cereals, rice, pasta, potatoes, beans, fruits, vegetables, more so fruits. Vegetables are going to be on the lower end in terms of density. And then milk and yogurt also have your carbohydrates. Now we'll get into our protein. So protein is going to be crucial for building and maintaining that lean muscle mass, but not just muscle, also our tissues. It's extremely important for supporting our immune system. So we want to make sure that we don't want to overdo it with protein, but we want that balance. And then if we don't have enough carbohydrate on board, protein cannot do its job. So again, we need that combo of the two in a perfect, just like being on court with your fellow teammates, right? When you guys are on and you're passing that ball and you're syncing and working on your pick and rolls and everything is going right, that's kind of like that's how you want to think of protein and carbohydrates. So we want to look at a good rule of thumb is at 1.4 to 1.7 grams per kilogram of body mass. Really, we don't need much more than 1.8 grams per kilo. This is on average. Some might need a little bit more, some might need a little bit less. So that's where you would work with your practitioner and they would help you determine what's best for you. So we talked about sources of carbs. Sources of protein are going to be Greek yogurt because they add a little bit of extra protein to it. Of course, your milk, certain cheeses, eggs, your animals, chicken, beef, lamb, pork, turkey. And then for us vegetarians and vegans, really make sure you're getting in your beans and your lentils, your tofu, your edamame, and really focusing on those vegetables in order to get that protein in. And then we can't forget about fat. So fat's going to be important for protecting your brain and your joints and really supporting your physiology, so your hormones. So, and we want to make sure that we'll want to eat fats that give back, that are unsaturated, right? That they're not going to, clog up the arteries or cause us to, be sluggish. So we want to really shift our fats from chips and our fried foods, fries, to avocado and snack on nuts and seeds like sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds. Salmon is a great source of a different type of fat called our omega-3 fats. So these are going to, and of course, olive oil and avocado oil, these are going to want to be our staples, whereas our butter and our sour cream are what I would call your 20% fats, your once or twice a week type of fats. And then the fats that I had just mentioned, those are your everyday type of fats. All right, so now we just went over the basics of carbs, proteins, and fats. Well, how do you put this all together? Well, here we have a nutrition, an ideal day for a 165-pound side. We have if it's a rest day, then if it's a rigorous training, right? Let's say on your rate of perceived exertion scale, on 1 to 10, 10 being you're about to fall over, 1 is a walk in the park, and you're consistently above an 8. That's going to be your rigorous training. And if you're playing 20 plus 30 plus minutes, we're going to look at competition, and then, or I'm sorry, rigorous training and competition. So you look at here are what your needs would be based on your for carbohydrate, for protein, and then for fat. And we base the needs on your body weight and the amount of activity. So now we want to get into hydration. We really want to make sure we're hydrating throughout the day. So when you're at school, during class, if you're allowed to carry a water bottle with you, make sure you carry it with you, and maybe set a goal of trying to fill it up twice a day or 3 times a day. Because sometimes I do it. I'll fill up my water bottle and I'll sit there at work, or it'll be there at the gym with me, or during a game. I'm like, shoot, I forgot to fill up my water bottle. Another thing is, if you don't have it or you forgot it, hit the drinking fountain in between every class if possible. Great way to do it. Start the day with 1 to 2 glasses or 1 to 2 bottles of water, or start that morning with a smoothie. If you have a hard time getting in eating a meal, turn it into a smoothie with some fruit, some oatmeal, a protein powder, or some milk or Greek yogurt for that protein. So we want to avoid a greater than 2% loss of body weight during a training or competition. Because once this happens, it starts to impede your muscle ability, your brain, your motor, hand-eye coordination. Things really start to take a hit. So this is why we talk about that hydration. So you want to make sure that you're hydrated before going into training or competition, because if you're already in that deficit, now it's going to be harder to pull out, and the effects of not hydrating are going to hit you and hit you harder. If you're a heavy sweater, then you're thinking, okay, well, what does that mean? How do I know if I'm a heavy sweater? When you sweat, and let's say you're wearing black clothing, do you notice rings of white or salt around your clothing? Or when you look at your skin, do you see white flakiness on your skin? That's a sure tell sign that you're a salty sweater. So you'll want to add a little bit more electrolytes and make sure you get a little bit more water than someone that does not sweat as much as you. So a rule of thumb, on average, before training, we want to get about 8 to 12 ounces of water 10 to 15 minutes before the game. And I would say start practicing all of this now. Get into these good habits, because I have my players now where they didn't start when they were your age. And then they're like, well, I can't drink. It feels slushy, or I can't eat this much. I don't want to feel full on the court. So remember, and not even remember, but a nugget for you guys is that your stomach and your bowels, your small and large intestine, your colon, they're muscles. So just like you train your muscles on the court and you train your skill, we need to train our stomachs to handle a certain amount of water and a certain amount of fuel or food in order to support our recovery and our demands. So then during training, another rule of thumb is thinking about, you want to make sure that you're getting couple sips of water, maybe about, 4 to 8 ounces, which would be a good, 6 to 10 gulps of water every 15 to 20 minutes. Again, those of us that are salty sweaters, consider an electrolyte or a sports performance drink. I know there's a lot on sugar and sports drinks, but when they're used in and around training and competition, they do serve a great purpose. So and that's what your practitioner would always help you with. They will help you with being strategic with this. So it actually does your body a favor and not a detriment. And so then after training, you want about 24 ounces of fluid, total fluid from either a sports drink or water for every pound lost, and preferably with some sodium and maybe a little bit of potassium to help that process go a little bit quicker and help you make sure that you are retaining that water, right? Because sodium helps us retain water. So that was our hydration. So let's talk about that fueling or that food that we need, right? We are looking at food here as a way to help support recovery, as a way to help support the demands on the court to get the best that we can get every day. So our goal is to provide that energy, eliminate hunger, reduce the risk of gastrointestinal distress, reduce the risk of injury, and then support that recovery. So we want that pregame meal about 3 to 4 hours prior to tip-off to be very high in carbohydrate, moderate in protein, low in fat. Again, remember, looking at those previous slides, you can see what you need for carbohydrate. And I would say maybe start small, and then you start working your way up to your ultimate needs, right? But you got to start somewhere. And then making sure that you're having a snack maybe 30 to 60 minutes prior to tip off in order to top off the tank. Maybe that's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or a Kind bar, a Nature Valley bar, banana and peanut butter. Again, you can work with your sports dietitian to help you pick the fuel that's right for you. During your competition, it's really going to be carbohydrate and water, because we want to supply that amount of energy for the second half of the game, as well as prevent dehydration, prevent incidents of a non-contact injury. So you want carbohydrate. I know, contrary to popular belief and what's been told to us, but you do want about 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour. So, a Gatorade is going to give you 8 ounces of Gatorade is going to give you 15 grams of carbohydrate. So that's really not a lot. I mean, if you think about a basketball game, 48 minutes, but you got to think about the warm up prior and all of those things that go around it. So really, it's about 15 to 30 grams of carbohydrate. That's a tablespoon of honey. That's 8 ounces of Gatorade. It's not a lot, but if you think about the Gatorades that we're given, we're given these big 20 plus ounces, maybe get a 16-ounce Gatorade and know that you need to drink half of that. You save the other half for the next game, the next day. So again, working with that sports dietitian is going to help you understand the importance of these things and how to use them strategically in order to make them work for you instead of against you. So after training, we want to start to help repair that muscle and restore that muscle glycogen. Remember that big word, but restore that muscle carbohydrate, because that's going to be our recovery. Here is the goal. So you kind of look at that total daily carb that we talked about earlier today, and then you break it down, and 1 to 1.2 of that is going to be needed in that 30 to 60 minutes post end of training or competitions. And then also make sure that this is going to be even more important when you have back-to-back games, or 2 games in a day, at least, because of a tournament. So this is then where we're going to need to make sure that we are fueling ourselves about every 2 to 3 hours, or even maximum every 4 hours. So here's our first case study. So I want you guys to read it with me, and then I am expecting some answers. You just throw them in the chat or the Q&A section on this Zoom. So here we have a 22-year-old, 6'4", 180-pound basketball student athlete complaining about not having enough energy during the games. So think about what we just talked about. After doing a basic nutrition assessment, you discover that they're following a low carbohydrate diet, which you'd seen on social media. So does a low carbohydrate diet lead to fatigue for this athlete? If so, why? Please throw your thoughts and answers in the Q&A. I'll give you a couple seconds. How much carbohydrate and protein should he aim to consume per day? Go ahead and throw it in there. And why is adding carbohydrate in the post-game meal important for helping with this issue of feeling fatigued during games? Come on, guys. I know you can do it. We went through it all. Don't be shy for me. All right. Since we're short on time, so does a low carbohydrate diet lead to fatigue? Well, yes, because remember, carbs are the primary fuel, especially for those high intensity exercises like basketball. And when we deplete that fuel or we don't have it there, we're going to hit that wall muscularly as well as mentally, right? We'll get that brain fog. So we'll go back thinking about what we had talked about earlier, making sure that we need it. I just had a talk with one of my professional athletes, and they had once cut their carbs, and then they noticed that they were relying more on caffeine for energy. So again, we need the right amount in that right balance. And this is where your sports dietitian can help. How much carb and protein should this basketball player aim to consume per day? So let's go back. Protein. Let's find my protein, right? What would he need? Daily requirements for protein. Pretty much 1.7 to 1.4 to 1.7 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. And if you notice, protein pretty much stays the same. It's your carbohydrates that are going to change, because carbohydrates will go up and down based on your goals, your intensity, and your duration of your physical activity. And then why is adding carbohydrates in the post-game meal important for helping with this issue of feeling fatigued during games? I'm going to check my chat box. Still no one's answered. No problem. So when we talked about after training, remember, we want to look for helping to repair that muscle and restore that glycogen or that carbohydrate stores. So again, remember what I said, if we don't have enough carbohydrate on board, you're not going to have enough protein, won't be able to do its job at that muscle repair, hormone support, immune system building. Case study number 2, another 22-year-old basketball player, 6'4", 180 pounds, another student athlete. He had a 10:30 p.m. game. He ate at 8:30 p.m. because he thought this would give him more energy during the game. But he felt full, not energetic. After the game, he didn't eat much. He was concerned about gaining weight as he would soon go to bed after the meal. And I'm sure this has happened to most of you. I still have conversations with my WNBA as well as my NBA players on how to fuel around the games since we have these late games. All right, so we went over. Let's try to answer some of these questions. Please throw them in the chat. What should he do as for the timing of the pregame meal? What could he have done differently so that he would have felt satisfied and energetic? Great. Okay, good. I got an answer. Let's see. He should eat his pregame meal 4 hours before competition. He could have a smaller, great. See, that's exactly what we talked about, right? So the rule of thumb is to start with having a great big meal 3 to 4 hours prior to tip off and having a small snack 30 to 60 minutes prior to tip off to top off the tanks. Great, thank you. Now, next question. What are some other strategies to make this athlete feel more energetic during the game? Anyone else? What are some other strategies to make this athlete feel more energetic during the game? Well, we could have definitely made sure that he was hydrated going into the game, that he is consuming some water or an electrolyte or a carbohydrate drink every 15 to 20 minutes to make sure that he is getting that carbohydrate, that fluid, and those electrolytes, the sodium and the potassium. And last question, how many grams of carbohydrates and protein should he eat after the game? I'm sure some of you jotted this down. Go ahead, throw it up in the chat. I'll wait a few seconds. Okay, let's go back to one of our slides. So post-training, we want to have 1 to 1.2 grams of gram per kilogram body weight of carbohydrates and about 20 grams of protein within 30 to 60 minutes finishing a game or competition. Again, the carbs are going to be based on whether you're on the lower or higher side on the duration and the intensity of that training session or game. All right. Okay, so anyone want to take a stab at any of these questions? What should you eat before or after a training session or game? So I would say if we're going to be within that 30-minute window, 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after, it's going to be carbohydrate dominant and then a little bit of protein thrown in. So as I said earlier, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or half of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, a banana or apple, and either a sunflower butter or another favorite nut butter. Post game, you could do that. You could also have a chocolate milk. You could eat a meal. Sometimes though, this is where shakes and milk ready to drink like in a box come in handy, because have you ever felt it was so intense that you're just not hungry? Well, that's because all of your blood flow has left your digestive system and has gone to your extremities, your wheels and your hands to facilitate your training. And so it takes that 30 to 60 minutes for the body to calm down and say, okay, I'm ready to eat. So drinking something is a good way to get that quick, fast fuel and energy. It also helps to carry those electrolytes, that sodium and potassium, into the cells. So shakes and ready to drink shakes and a chocolate milk is not a bad idea within 30 to 60 minutes of a training session or game. All right. I'm sure some of you have had these questions. I can't seem to eat anything during training. What can I do? Anybody have solutions here? Any of you felt this and needed to try this before or have found something that works for you? Please throw it up in the Q&A section. If someone struggles to eat something during training, they could consume a sports drink to provide carbohydrates. Yes. Yeah, right. Because that's going to give you some fuel. That's going to give you some calorie. That's going to give you some electrolyte. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to find a good sports drink that can do that for you. I always seem to lose energy at the end of a long workout. What can I do? So anybody want to take a stab at that? What have you guys done in order to help make sure that you have enough energy, not just physical, but also mental, to get through the end of your training or game? Following these rules that we just talked about, making sure you're having enough carbohydrate on board, right, throughout the day, anywhere from 5 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight, and spreading it throughout the day. Making sure that you're having that pre-competition meal or pre-competition or pre-workout snack, making sure that we're having something to help us recover after, because if we don't, now all of a sudden we took out a lot of debits during that training session and competition. So what are our credits? That's hydration, that's protein, that's carbohydrate, that's food. So if we forget to eat or we're not eating, that's then going to bleed into the next day's training session or game. Should I drink Gatorade or water? Anyone want to take a stab at that? I always pose it to my clients as it depends. What is your goal? What is your sweat rate, right? Are you a salty sweater? Do you get fatigued during your games or training sessions? What did you eat prior? What's the intensity? So it depends. There might be time that you might need a Gatorade, and that's okay. We're going to be strategic, and you're going to, again, make it work for you. Are you dehydrated? Any of you have a system or a way of seeing if you're dehydrated? Do you remember what we talked about? What's the amount of body weight? What's that we don't want to lose? We don't want to lose more than 2% of our body weight through sweat. So if you weigh yourself before and after your training sessions and you notice that you're losing 3+ pounds, we might want to look at, are we drinking enough Gatorade and or water during that time? And do I really need to have recovery nutrition? Well, as I just explained a few seconds ago, yes, because we just did a lot of credits during that. We took out a lot of debits. We took out a lot during that training or competition. So look at your recovery nutrition and your recovery hydration as credits, adding back to that bank account, adding back to your muscle reserves. So to get you ready for the next day's session. All right, so some action steps and reviews. So we want to focus on carbohydrates for our meal, for that snack before and after exercise or training. Refueling carbohydrates and protein after exercise helps with replenishing that carbohydrate or glycogen stores, as well as helping our muscles to repair. Consuming fluids such as water and potentially a sports drink to make sure you're starting off well hydrated and have a complete rehydration system post-exercise. Making sure that you're consuming fluids constantly throughout the day. And as we've talked about now, aim to not lose more than 2% of your body weight during exercise. And then rehearse your game day strategies during your training sessions. And nothing ever new on game day. So this is a QR code. So right now, if you want to take your phones, I'll wait here for about 15 seconds and scan this QR code for more information and a quick handout on how to better fuel for basketball. It's a great 2-3 pager resource that you can have, and also summarizes this presentation. Give you a few more seconds. All right. So have you guys heard this quote before? Everything negative, pressure, challenges are all an opportunity for me to rise. I love that quote. All right. So what are some next steps? Well, we have our one-on-one sports nutrition coaching program. And right now we are offering, for attending the webinar, we're offering 2 weeks free with a sports nutrition coach. They will work through all these strategies that we talked about and make them specific to your body weight, your goals, your needs. So it would help with managing your body weight goals. We'll get you some of that pre-game meal planning and those game day strategies. We'll look at daily nutrition strategies to help you accomplish your goals. We'll help with a personalized supplementation protocol using smart and safe supplements when needed. And you will have weekly check-ins with your sports nutrition coach. So if you are interested, we have another QR code. Please go ahead and take some time to scan that. See if there's anything, see what you like in there, and if you have any questions right now, please, anything, whether it's specific to the program or anything that we had covered that might be more relatable to you. So please go ahead right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Well, I don't see any questions coming through, so
Danielle, I see a couple on here. If you go under the Q&A.
Yes, I answered those.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Yes.
Good, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I did not click answered live.
There we go.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Do you recommend creatine for a basketball athlete? Yeah, so it's supplements for me are it depends, especially for the high school athlete. However, because there's not a lot of research, right, on our high school athletes. However, I think creatine is one of the most researched supplements on the market, and it is extremely safe. And so without really getting into it too much, sorry, I kind of get into it there. Yes, I think creatine would be really great. It helps it helps maintain our lean muscle mass. It does help bring muscle into cell, helps with hydration. So yes, I would recommend creatine for basketball athletes. Again, you could work with your sports nutrition coach, and they could help you with the dosing and timing and how to make it best work for you. Great question. Thank you for asking. Here are some great resources as well. If any of you guys want to snap a picture of this slide or write anything down, but these are some great resources for basketball nutrition and for the basketball athlete. All right. Well, since we don't have any other questions coming in, again, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to just go through this presentation with me. And I wish you all the best of luck. And thank you very much.